You heard the news, really?
It's been absolutely awful. Just trying to cope with each day as it comes and help the police as much as we can.
And how have the police been? Have they been very supportive?
The police have been absolutely fantastic. The level of information that they've given me, the amount of work that's being carried out behind the scenes that a lot of the general public won't be seeing. But as a police officer, obviously, I'm aware of just how much work is getting carried out.
Corrie went missing on Saturday the 24th of September in the early hours of the morning, and Corrie is a very fit and healthy, active young man, and that's part of the reason why we're so concerned about the fact that he's gone missing. It's a very close family relationship, constantly in contact with his mother and his brothers, and indeed friends, and as I say, it's highly unusual that he wouldn't be in contact with any of those people. We know he went out, as many 23-year-old males do, on a Friday evening. He had a few beers, went out on a social event with his friends, had some fast food, and on the early hours of Saturday morning, he quite simply disappeared and hasn't been seen or made contact with anyone since, which, as I say, is highly unusual. So today is a plea, really, for any witnesses that may have any information whatsoever in relation to Corrie, where he may be, to please come forward and provide the information to the police to help us with our lines of investigation. Since he was reported missing to us, there's been some very significant efforts in terms of trying to locate him. That's consisted of two main things, really. One is a broad range of searches using police search teams, ably assisted by Suffolk Lowland Search and Rescue and also RAF personnel. I'd like to pass my thanks on to both of those. They've done a fantastic job and certainly eased pressure in terms of resourcing for the police. It's been a really superb effort on behalf of everybody. And at the same time, we have numerous officers involved in other inquiries, such as CCTV inquiries, other technical inquiries that look at things like mobile telephones, to try and build a much bigger picture or better picture as to where Corrie could be at this particular time. But a reminder, this is an appeal for witnesses. That's the most important thing.
Firstly, I'd just like to thank everybody from Suffolk Police, the RAF, the volunteers, everybody that has been out looking for Corrie. There is nothing else I can add that the superintendent hasn't already told you. My son has disappeared. So somebody, please, if anybody knows anything, get in touch. No matter how insignificant, get in touch with Suffolk Police. I believe there's a number that you can contact them on. We'd like him to come home. We'd like him to come home soon, so please get in touch. It's getting worse every single day because on day one you thought of the simple things, you thought of the easy things, that he has just stumbled into a bush, that something simple has happened. And unfortunately, because of my experience, I know that as each day goes by, it is looking harder and harder and harder that it's going to be a good outcome. It's human nature. We all still think if anybody can come back from this, it will be Corrie, with a fantastic story of what's happened to him. But it is getting harder to believe that because why hasn't anybody come forward? Why doesn't anybody know anything? No CCTV, nothing.
So, Nicola, you don't think it's deliberate? You don't think this is down to him? This is
Absolutely
something
not.
has happened to him,
Yeah.
and you must have gone through in the past few weeks every single possible outcome that has happened to your son. Do you believe, first and foremost, that he is still alive?
Yes, yes, I do.
You don't think that there's been some dreadful accident?
There are only 3 possibilities
It has been a dreadful accident, perhaps, and this is one of the things I am clinging to. Corrie would go with a stranger in a car. He would ask a stranger for a lift. He would equally pick up hitchhikers. So perhaps somebody has given him a lift to try and get him back to the base, but they've taken him to the wrong place, and they've dropped him off, and they feel bad and they don't want to come forward. But the police don't know where to search, because they've searched the road back to the base, and he's not there. So if it's been an accident, if somebody's taken him to try and help him, to give him a lift up the road, tell us where you dropped him off so that we've got some clue as to where to start searching now.
You said there were only 3 things that could have happened.
Well, it's either that he's had an accident, that it's something like that by whatever means, and he is unfortunately now dead.
But you believe, you have a sense that he is still alive and will be found.
Yeah. Or he's left voluntarily, but as I said, there has been no preparation whatsoever. There's been no motivating factor to make him go. His life is really going well for him just now. Yeah. Or he's been taken against his will. I don't want that to sound like I think it's got anything to do with terrorism. I am aware of the Marham incident. It was only 20 miles away. And
he's in the armed services?
Yeah, he's in the armed services, and the police are not discounting it either. However, there is only one bit of evidence that says it's not terrorism, and that's because nobody has come forward and claimed him.
And usually they would have by now.
And they would have by now.
Okay.
So for that very reason, they're saying, although we wouldn't discount it, it's not an active thing that they're trying to look into. I am a police officer, but I am definitely a mother first, without a shadow of a doubt. If somebody's tried to help Corrie, if they've given him a lift to try and help him get a lift up the road, but they've taken him to the wrong place, and then they've dropped him off, and now they feel guilty. You did something nice to begin with, so please carry on, do something nice. Let us know where you have dropped him off, because something untoward has happened to him after that. That's why he's not been able to come home. If it's somebody that has taken him, I don't know why you've taken him. They clearly don't want anything, because this is not a kidnap. Nobody has come asking for anything of any description. So why else would somebody have taken him? The reasons that you could start thinking, I don't know, but tell us where he is. Just phone up Crimestoppers. I do not care what happens to anybody that's taken him. Just give me him back. Just let him come home.
What do you know about what happened that night?
He went out on the 23rd of September on the Friday night with his friends. He was on the phone to me 4 times throughout the day. Normal conversation of what we had, just as we always are. He's then left the bar Flux, I think it is, or Flex, and went and got food and walked along the road. He's then seen on CCTV throughout all this, and he lies down in a shop front door and sleeps for 2 hours. He then wakes up, he's been on his phone after that, he's seen on camera doing that, and he then steps into a back part of shops and is then not seen coming back out.
And as you mentioned, the CCTV, we're just looking at some of those CCTV images from Bury St Edmunds after that night out. How is it for you as a family, Derek, and you, Tony, how is it to look at those images?
I'll watch it and I just see him. It's nothing out of the ordinary for me. I mean, I'd usually be alongside him with him when he was back home doing it.
And you spoke to him several times that day.
Yes,
and
spoke to him, and he was
he?
in the best mood ever. I'd planned to be coming up 2 weekends after what's happened to meet all of the boys from his regiment, meet all them, because I've never met any of them. Last time I was up was for Corrie's pass out parade, and we're excited about that. He's booked flights to come up for Halloween to see us and all of his other friends, so it was just nothing but happy feelings on the phones.
I think that's an interesting point, that the disappearance is so out of character, and I think if we look in the evidence of the case that's been gathered so far, is typically if somebody's going to disappear through choice, they make preparatory actions, they put money aside, they do different things. There's no evidence of that in this situation, and as Derek has said, Corrie goes into an area that's surrounded by CCTV and is not seen leaving. And the police investigation at the moment has three possible outcomes. One is that Corrie disappeared through choice. One is that he's disappeared against his will. And the other, obviously the one we want to contemplate least, is that he may be dead. And I think...
And the search area is wide, isn't it? Because he was walking a long way to his accommodation, where he was meant to end up.
We believe that that's where he was intended to go, to RAF Honington, which is 7-8 miles north of where he was.
And this is a walk, this wasn't the first time he'd done it, this was a walk he did.
He had only gotten so far along doing it, but the fact of it is he would have been seen on cameras leaving Bury. He would have been picked up somewhere.
So you don't think he ever left?
I don't, on his accord, I do not think he left whatsoever. He would not do this and not be in contact with me, my mum, just someone from the family. He would be in contact.
And I think this comes back to look at the evidence of these three possible scenarios, because, again, if somebody's going to disappear, they plan to do it, and they make preparation, or some significant motivating factor happens that they make a snap decision. There's no evidence of either of those scenarios, and based on Darach and all of his friends and family and how close they constantly are, it doesn't feel as though the evidence supports that as one of the likely scenarios. And in the same way as the early speculation about potential links to the terrorist incident in Marham, I think that rightly the police have assessed that doesn't seem like a likely probability, simply based on the assumption that if it had been terrorist related, they would have made some sort of public statement. So if we can discount those two on reasoned assumption, that leaves us the other two, which is there's another third party involvement and this is against his will, or he's had some sort of accident or something's befallen him and he's now dead. Now, if that's the scenario, this is the extensive search activity that the police are undertaking. It is a significant area. It's semi-rural, it's very rural in parts. The police have limited resources. They have helicopters and dogs and volunteer search teams from Salsar and elsewhere. But we're now looking towards the military assistance through the RAF, the Army, some of the specialist resources that we've got, potentially from engineering type units in Aldershot, that kind of thing, to try and discount that, which only then leaves us with a third party, if that's the route it goes.
And for you as a family, how difficult is it to contemplate that, Darach?
It's honestly, the whole thing, I've said it from just the beginning, it's just surreal. The whole thing, you just don't know how you're getting through it each day, and it is just each day by each day is just what's happening. Can't even get my head around it.
And what about your mum?
I've been with her every day since that we found out, and she's obviously, with her job being in the police, she deals with incidents like this, and she can put a brave face onto it, but it's still,
when it's your own son,
it's your son, it's how you can do it. So yeah, she can cope really well with it at some points, but at some points it's just hits straight down to earth of what's actually happening.
Darach, as you were saying, your brother was out with friends that evening in Bury St Edmunds. What have they had to say about that evening?
Hell, I've met up with all the boys now, and it's bad because it's these circumstances that I've now met all the boys from his regiment. All of them, it's Corrie will go out, he'll do his own thing. It's what we do back home. We'll all separate and meet up at the end of the night, or we'll just meet up, go grab a drink. That's what we do. Him going out on his own accord, getting food and going sleeping, it's Corrie. The only part that isn't Corrie is that he's not turned back up.
Yeah, and there was an early lead from Corrie's mobile phone, wasn't there, Tony? Has there been any development on that line of inquiry?
Not per se. I mean, there are technical things that the police and other agencies are able to do behind the scenes in regard to trying to triangulate where that device was seen. We know when it last left Bury, and we know when it arrived at a location approximately 8-9 miles away, in a frame of time that indicated it must have been on a vehicle. Now that coincides with a dustbin lorry, a commercial waste vehicle that was emptying bins from the place that Corrie was last seen on the video that's just been playing on the screen. So that vehicle has been forensically investigated. There are areas of search that still need to be concluded in relation to that vehicle and where it picked up and dropped off some of its waste. Because
it was calibrated though, like the weight of it, everything.
So what we mean by that is we know what was dropped into that vehicle in terms of weight, and it doesn't correlate with Corrie from the bin. But what is suspected is that the phone perhaps travelled on that vehicle.
The phone might have been thrown in the bin.
Whether Corrie was with it or not, we don't know. Now, they are still clearly trying to locate that phone, because it may contain evidence that assists us to try and locate where he is. But it is still outstanding, and that's one of the things that we are appealing for, is for people in that general area and possibly slightly wider area. It's a Nokia Lumia phone, black, and if anybody sees that, finds one, please contact the police on 101 or the incident room number. And similarly, I think something Derek hasn't mentioned, you see it on the video, Corrie's wearing a bright pink shirt and white jeans. That's a fairly noticeable set of clothing. But because the image of him on video has been seen quite a lot, I think people are trying to see him in the context of walking. What we're asking people to do is replay your recollection of that evening. Could you have seen him in a vehicle with other people and not on his own, in a different context, basically? That might help unlock a sighting, because the CCTV footprint, public and private, is extensive but not comprehensive, and there are gaps. And it would take quite detailed planning to evade a single sighting on all of that CCTV. That's not something that somebody drunk by chance does. And that's what makes this so hard to understand, as to how somebody in a modern British urban town can vanish without any trace by digital or human sight.
So you're appealing for information about the phone, if anyone has seen him. Derek, what would you like to say to the public about this search for your brother? What help do you want?
The people of Bury, everything that they've been doing, the police, everything, like what has been done is just unreal how much has been done. But until Corrie is found or back, then I'd just ask everyone to do every single thing that they possibly could, and if that is checking their gardens nearby of Bury where he went missing, just anything, because there's that little to go on that anything could help. Okay, Derek McKeague and Tony Rinch, thank you both very much indeed, and we wish you all the very best in the hunt for Corrie.
Thank you.